All right, welcome. It's been a minute. I don't know why people say that. It's been like a month since we've done one of these. I think over a month because last month we combined our topic with the New Canaan Library presentation for rising seniors. So welcome to our very own community. Let's Talk College community talk. It's just limited to us. And today's main topic for June's month of June is making the most of your summer. This is a question I've been getting fairly frequently just in presentations or even in random conversations I start out with. I don't think I know how to hold an adult conversation that doesn't somehow segue into college admission stuff. So, one, I'm learning that. But two, from having had those conversations, I realized that this was a hot topic, which is making the most of your summer. It's the first time that families have really wondered what to do over the summer because previously everyone is so burnt out. They just want to go on vacation mode and forget about everything for at least a month before July, mid-July, or August kicks in. And that's when everyone wants to act into their activities and whatever else again. So I'm glad everyone's starting early. This is my definite wishful thinking that everyone always started early. So let's dive in. We already have my contact info because everyone is on my newsletter. So I'm going to pass by that and let's get right into it. Now, one of the most common misconceptions is that you kind of have to do everything, that you have to have volunteer hours, you have to have the summer job, and you have to be like a camp counselor or a tutor or whatever else, that you got to stay busy. Now, yes, you should stay busy in that you're not playing video games all day or you're not just hanging out with friends all day, every day. That's great for your social skills. But ultimately, when you're thinking college admissions, university admissions officers are not looking for the busiest student. Okay. They're looking for the students who are pursuing meaningful interest. Now, that definition is on you. You decide what a meaningful interest is. It can be a career interest where you spend time shadowing a family friend who is a doctor, and maybe they let you follow them for a day and file their paperwork in their practice, right? Or maybe it's interning for, again, maybe it's a therapist, like a physical therapist. Maybe it's a friend who's doing, what am I thinking? Oh, like a legal work, whatever it might be in terms of career options. It doesn't even matter if you're not interested in that career. If you don't know what it is you want to do, the best thing you can do is just exposure, 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 exposure. So when we say pursue meaningful interest, it can be conversations with all of these individuals, but also go see if they can let you shadow. Now, granted, everyone is usually a minor when they're in high school, so you may not be allowed to work in their offices, and there might be limitations to how much you can shadow them. But if you can get yourself into that atmosphere, that is the best way to figure out if this is something you would want for your future. Okay, so that's one way to do it. And another one, maybe you take an EMT class privately with the town. Because you're interested in medicine. Maybe it's that you're tutoring somebody because you're interested in education. Whatever else it is, ultimately, you want to make sure that there's something that has substance to your activity. Okay. Again, could be exploring curiosities. If you're interested in video games, or you're interested in video game design, take what you're interested in currently and take it a step further if possible. Okay. If you can't think of anything else, take what you're doing currently and take it one step deeper. And if you're interested in the career aspect, then again, talk to family, friends, talk to friends, maybe friends' parents, and see if some way, somehow, there's a connection for whoever is willing to let you into their office. So that's one way to do it. The second one, and I think really the whole theme of this, and if I were to sum up the entire college applications process, the entire theme of what universities really want to see is growth and initiative, is that you've taken charge of some kind of project, of some part of your life. Mom and dad are not making the phone calls for you. Your teachers are not setting up clubs for you. School administrators are not doing things for you. They're helping you, but you are the one leading up. You're the one leading that project. You're the one doing the follow-ups. You're the one asking for help. You're the one shaping how you want this whole final product to look, and then pulling in the right people needed to execute on this project. So somewhere where you're demonstrating initiative, showing growth over a period of time. And no matter what activity you do, quality always beats quantity. And that has been a common mistake every time we talk about extracurricular activities and oh no, what do universities want? And you want to throw everything at the wall and hope something sticks for that university admissions officer. Main point is quality. You want that initiative, you want that growth. And you may have heard me say this over and over again, but I want to make sure this really sinks in, because while I can say it, I can say the initiative, I can say show growth, it is up to you to figure out, okay, well, how do we take this current activity, if that's what you're planning to do, and take and expand upon it? Or what is this new activity that my teen is very interested in trying out? And is it worth it? Now, my answer to is it worth it is, if it's a curiosity, it's always worth finding the answers to. It's always worth exploring. You never know, that might be something you end up loving, or it could end up as a hobby, or you just decide, cool, my question's answered. Now I don't care about that one thing anymore. So I'm big on exploring curiosities. Now, with that said, let's break this down by grade. If you have a rising ninth grader, someone who's going just into high school, a couple of things need to happen in terms of skills development. So yes, you're exploring interests. Maybe you're volunteering at a maritime aquarium or at nature camps, whatever else, or you're a volunteer in training, or maybe you're a participant. Cool, great. The other thing that needs to happen is an upgrade in study habits. Recently, we've been seeing a rise in students having issues with the executive functioning. And that's because we don't really do much with physical binders anymore, teaching them how to organize and outline and everything, because everything is electronic. So there has been this massive portion of learning that we used to get in elementary school and probably until sixth grade, to make sure that, we have the dividers and our binders and everything's color coded, and make sure the dividers are labeled right. And then teachers give us back our papers and they tell us exactly what to file it under. So we learned a lot of this executive functioning of like organizing, note taking, and that doesn't always exist for students. Yet when you go from eighth grade to ninth grade, you are increasing your academic workload. So it is important that you build study habits that go with them. Where can you find this info? A lot of the local high schools actually do have classes for this, even if it's in the fall and not over the summer. But other ways you could do this, there's a book called Getting Things Done for Teens. I don't think I have it. I probably have it on bookshelf somewhere. But there's one for like getting things done for teens. Maybe you try watching different YouTube videos, different Instagrams for all the teens who prefer social media. But YouTube, I think everyone does. Pick up the skills. See what you have to play with, okay? And then just read. A lot of students no longer read because the books that are chosen in school have been not always the funnest to read. So it leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth associated with reading. It sounds boring. So see if you can get them into reading, even if it's like a page a day, a chapter a day, whatever bare minimum, because one of the issues that comes up in SAT world is, and ACT, but definitely SAT, is that vocab becomes an issue. A lot of teens are not learning new vocab. Grammar rules become an issue because, once again, we're not really taught grammar as much anymore in school. So if they start earlier on, they're laying a solid foundation for their reading and comprehension skills, and also for some of the basics they will need for their SATs and ACTs. So that's ninth grade. Now, if you're going into 10th grade, so going from 9th to 10th grade, choose an extracurricular that you may have tried previously that you might want to explore in depth this year. Whether that's in school, whether that is over the summer. It could be something your friends are doing, or it's something you take ownership of on your own. Maybe it's volunteering or working at a daycare. Maybe it's, again, a camp counseling. Maybe it is at a nature camp. Maybe it is at a local grocery store. Doesn't have to be crazy fancy, okay? Just take it a step further, test the waters into what it means to do things that you want to do, not just because your friends are doing it and you're feeling obligated to do it. Because in ninth grade, that's how most students pick their clubs and interests, is because their friends are doing it and therefore they follow along. Now in 10th grade is when students start separating themselves out a little more, or they should start separating themselves out a little more. So explore something right now that you have been doing. Maybe it's with a sport, maybe it's with a community service project, whatever it might be, and then consider any kind of leadership initiative you can take. Now, you've heard me say before, if you've heard me talk about extracurricular activities, that you want to have some, again, it comes back to initiative, it comes back to growth, but you can continue doing that with your current activity. If you're in a sport, Can you host a charity sports equipment drive of some kind? And how would you market it? Okay, so that's another way you can do that. You can go about doing leadership is ultimately taking the activity that you have been doing now and then adding a charity component to it, adding a service component to it, adding some kind of impact to it. Maybe you volunteer at a little children's theater. Okay, there are so many activities around us that it is important to, number one, explore those activities, and number two, consider how you would go about with the leadership aspect. What's available? Are they looking for somebody, or is there something you can do on your own? And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, exploring careers, whether that's talking to family friends, whether that's shadowing someone, whether that's reaching out to the local offices. One of the benefits of living in somewhat small towns or small city areas is that we kind of have everything around us, or nothing around us, but everything around us. And therefore, it's easy to walk in and at least ask. Even if they say no, that's okay. But we can ask. If you're interested in being a doctor, ask them if you can shadow. HIPAA law violations, they have to make sure they protect themselves, but there may be places that do let you actually talk to them about their careers, even if it's a 15-minute conversation, 20-minute conversation versus a week-long shadowing experience. So explore, because the more exposure you get, the more likely you are to make great choice actually for yourself. Now, for the rising 11th graders, I cannot emphasize enough, it doesn't matter what kind of university you want to go to, what country you want to go into, that university you need to do your SAT or ACT prep. This is the easiest summer you will have academically. It doesn't matter if you are not taking AP classes in the 11th grade. It doesn't matter if you think you have a lighter course load, you don't have as many extracurricular activities. Something always happens in 11th grade. It is just busy no matter who you are. 11th and 12th grades are busy no matter who you are. That could be because you level up in your sports. You now went from JV to varsity. It could be because you went from participant to a leadership position in a club. More is expected out of you. Whatever it might be, these 2 years are busy. If they're not busy, cool, that is great, but treat that as a gift, not as the original plan. Okay, so with that in mind, and with that approach in mind, make sure you have your SAT prep in place for this summer. You can take a free SAT on College Board's website. They have a Blue Book app, which is actually the app you will be using to take the real SAT, but they have a sample full SAT available on there. You can go to test prep companies like the Princeton Review will have a free SAT and free ACT as sort of their marketing tools, and you can take those online at home and see how you do. Okay, so whichever exam you do better on is the exam you prep for. There is no such thing as universities accepting one exam and not accepting the other. So prep for the exam that you do better on. And just a quick recap of numbers. SATs out of 1,600. Average SAT score range is about a 1050 to a 1080. I know it's gone down last year, so it's probably closer to 1030, but I want everyone to aim higher. So I'm going to say about a 1050 to a 1070, 1080. And then I would aim, no matter who you are, at minimum for a 1300, 1350. And then if you're going for Ivy Leagues, a 1450 or higher. Okay. Then ACT is out of 36. Average is about a 19 or a 20. Then a good score, preferably a 27 or above. And then Ivy League score would be a 32 to a 36. Okay. So now that you have those quick ranges, you have an idea of when you're taking your free SAT or ACTs, which exam your teenager did better on. So which exam to prep for. Have a testing plan. I'm not saying you have to get a course, you have to get a tutor. Maybe your teen is perfectly fine and great and will thrive self-studying. That's great. The summer is the time to do that self-studying. All right. So free resources, Khan Academy has free SAT prep. They will cover all the content. They don't necessarily do strategy, and that's just the nature of having free SAT prep, right? They're not going to cover the shortcuts to the exams. They're They're going to teach you the correct mathematical way of solving that problem, even if it could have been solved like 5 seconds ago. So, or 2 minutes ago. But either way, that is a great way to at least figure out what content you're missing, content knowledge base you're missing, and then at least fill those gaps in, and then you can figure out some of the strategy on your own. If you want to try, the website doesn't have as many questions. So Khan Academy partnered with College Board, which is why all the exams you'll have will be fairly accurate because they're from the test makers. Then ACT doesn't really have so many full exams as they just have questions available, but you're welcome to try it on their website. Other private resources for that, if you're self-studying, you can grab the Princeton Review books from Amazon. They'll have exams online as well as ones in the book. But again, you care more about the strategy as well, which they will tell you in their books. So that's another way to self-study, is just grab Princeton Review books. Kaplan's okay and Barron's okay, but I think I would first start with the Princeton Review. And then if you totally run out of question sets, email me and I'll help you find something else. Okay. Then the other thing you can get started on are the college visits. So right now in June is not a great time to visit any university. They're practically empty. Even if they are running for the summer semester, not as many students are taking summer A. So first part of summer classes, but then they'll take a break around 4th of July and they'll be back in class for the second semester of summer. So summer B classes, and that's when more students come back in. So if you want to take a college tour, wait until after the 4th of July and then go ahead and sign up. You'll get a much more accurate experience of what this university vibe is like. Okay, so that's for rising 11th graders. Now for the rising seniors, finalize. Okay, so when I say finalize, that's going to be leading towards the end of summer. But right now, my students and I know the school year hasn't even ended, but we're already working on the college essays because I want to make sure that they can have vacations over their summer, or they can have their sports training over the summer, whatever else, that they can be unavailable and we are still on track. So we've already started on the college essays. When I say essays here, I mean supplemental essays, which are the mini essays that some but not all universities have. And those come out August 1st when applications open. So get those done. That's still something possible over the summer. Resumes, ask for your recommendations right now. That's important for and just post in the chat. Do we have any rising seniors? I know we have 2 rising juniors. And then if you are a rising senior, let me know. But after that, we also want to somewhat finalize our college list, because college list is going to indicate how many college or supplemental essays you're going to have to write. So everything now has to start coming together. And the mistake most families make is, number one, they'll wait until August if they're lucky. Or number 2, they'll wait until the school year starts because the teenager just refuses to do anything school related over the summer. And then you lose massive, massive opportunity, because that college essay, that could have taken 2 months to write, depending on what kind of writer you are. And now you're shoving that into a 2-week time frame or a 3-week time frame while you're managing your school workload and your sports all together. So you may have heard me say this. There's quite a few things that I think if you heard me speak enough times, you're like, she said this before. She said this before. Yes, because I'm really, really hoping it sticks. And one of the things that I hope it sticks is the fact that teenagers spend 3 years pulling together all these components. You hear me talk about the extracurricular. You do the extracurriculars, right? I just have to talk about it. Your teens are out there training for hours in their sport. They're spending hours coordinating or organizing for their clubs and volunteering activities and so on. They do all of this. They work hard for the grades. Maybe they're teaching themselves. Maybe they're going to extra help. All of this for 3 years. And then they don't spend 3 months pulling together their college applications. They BS components of those because, 1, they may not want to deal with any of this, or 2, because they're too busy during the school year. So they started late and now they have to rush the whole mess. Don't put yourself in that situation. So rising seniors need to get on everything. And I make that sound very, very intimidating, but I want to point out that that could be about 2 to 3 hours of work a day over the summer on only the weekdays, right? So you still have the rest of the day to do your summer job, to hang out with friends, to do whatever else you want. If you're willing to dedicate just the 2 to 3 hours a day, you're going to move smoothly through your entire college applications process. And I actually have had two parents who were like, we're not stressed. Are we doing something wrong? And I was like, no, you started with me in 10th grade. So we paced everything out so far in advance around your vacations, around interest and everything else. Like we paced everything out, spread it and planned it that, yeah, you can breathe. So to them, that feels weird because they're seeing everyone else panic and they're like, ooh, we should be doing that too. But why aren't we? Are we doing something wrong? I want you in that boat. Okay. I want you in that second boat, wondering if you're behind when you're really not. Possible activities, again, starting any kind of community service project. I had a student who started like a push-ups for vets. Now that wasn't with me. She used to do that and then we met. I want to make sure she gets full credit for the idea and the family gets credit for that idea. But they would start planning and executing that. They would start planning it, coordinating with the organization that they supported, fundraised for, and then ultimately it would become a year-long project until it was executed in usually June, July, okay, at the school's track. Tutoring younger students, I know a lot of students work for Kumon or will work for Mathnasium or some other kind of tutoring service or just tutor kids on their own. And that's okay. That is great. If you tutor somebody on your own, the other one is like pet sitting, dog walking, giving them dogs baths, all of that. You learn how to run your own mini business because you have to find the clients. You have to make sure you're providing the service because if their dog's not happy, that client is definitely not happy with you. So they're not going to call you back. So maybe that could be one of those. Maybe it's lawn mowing or offering like gardening to anyone who doesn't want to pull their weeds or needs help, needs extra set of hands, planting and so on over the summer. There are many mini business ideas that you could start on your own if you're interested in something like that. And then see how it goes. If that's not something you like doing, business is not your thing, now you know because you had practical experience with it. Learning any kind of new skill. Coursera, I usually recommend quite a lot. I believe you have to be like 16 to take a course on Coursera, but there's lots of free classes available on there. So, and free classes from Ivy Leagues as well. So it's Harvard has classes on there, MIT has classes on there, Duke has classes on there. And they could be about anything. They can be psychology classes, they could be math classes, they could be coding, they could be AI, all sorts of classes. And most of them, or a lot of them, I can't say most, but a lot of them tend to be free. So Coursera, Coursera, that's the spelling for Coursera. Similar website is edX, education, so like ED and then X. And then another one is Udemy. I think we might have heard about Udemy before. I would say LinkedIn Learning, but LinkedIn, I think LinkedIn also has the age cutoff of like 16. So a lot of the libraries have partnerships with LinkedIn Learning. So you may be able to get access to LinkedIn Learning for free. Okay. Pick up a new skill or two. If you are in the arts or you're just a creative person, see if you can build your own portfolio or building any kind of website. It could be a Google site. Again, that could be a skill that you add to your entire repertoire. And in terms of portfolio, if you're interested in film or art or music or whatever else it may be, don't wait until the very last second to pull your portfolio together because then you're scrambling. It's senior year or it's summer before senior year. And we're now saying, oh, we haven't tested these styles and techniques out. So I need to show this and create this piece and edit. And that's going to take time. I need to do this. It's going to take, just pulling together can take time. Start pulling things together now, and then you can always remove the things you don't like later, right? So better to have more in your portfolio and then edit out later, as opposed to realize you don't have enough and then scramble to create. I mentioned shadowing a professional before and then working any kind of local job. It's all about, number one, learning people skills, learning how to interact with humans in person as opposed to on your phones or on any kind of social media. It's also learning how to interact with people who are of all different ages, not just everyone in your own age group, and not just family friends who are parents' age type of thing, but everybody else. And working in a local job is going to give you all kinds of different experiences. I've had a student who worked at the local supermarket and then was yelled at by somebody at the checkout aisle. He was doing checkout, and one of the customers came through and then started yelling at him when he saw his own total of just the food of the prices of food. The prices of food have gone up, and my teen got yelled at about it as if he had any control. And that's an experience. And I asked him, what did you do? How did you grow in that? And he's like, I had to stay quiet. I couldn't do anything, but I was freaking out internally. After he left, I had to go to the break room to just breathe. Okay, that is a skill you learned, right? A lot of times the mistake we make is thinking that we need the fancy titles, that we need to have this, went overseas on a trip and did a volunteer experience that way, or started this nonprofit or whatever else it might be. But it really comes down to not necessarily what you do, it's what helps you grow. And when you're in 9th grade and 10th grade and even 11th grade, like there's a lot of local things that are just gonna push you through your limits. So try those out. And then of course, if you can add a purpose-oriented task, like a new skill, whether it's building a portfolio, a community service project, for something you genuinely care about, not because it looks good for college, add that on. Okay, so twofold is do something that's fun, curious about, and also see if you can find something that has a purpose to it for yourself and for your own growth. And because if you work at a local job, then maybe you get cash and you can pay for gas for your own car. I have a student whose parents have basically said that, yeah, you have the car, but you're responsible for your own gas. So he's having fun figuring out money and different ways he can make money. But teens get really creative when you give them a problem. Just give them the problem. Hey, you have to pay for your own gas, and then let them figure it out. Okay, so before I move on, any questions so far? Okay. And this one, it's not going to be an insanely long presentation because a lot of it is reminding you, it's just reiterating what you've already heard, but you need to hear it again. And I wanted to give you the space to ask questions about any of your own specific cases in case that's something that you wanted feedback on before you started an activity, thought about ending an activity or quitting something, and just needed to pivot into a direction. So a couple of common mistakes I see: joining activities only to impress colleges. Now, you're never going to get this time of your life back. Just high school years, teen years, when parents are the ones taking care of you and you have this freedom of opportunity, just the freedom to explore everything around you. And then you only pigeonhole yourself into doing the things that you think may, not guaranteed to, but may impress a university. That sucks, right? You're limiting yourself. So don't do it because you're interested in impressing a university. Do it because you care and are curious enough about that. Second is trying to do too many things. So the opposite, which is, oh my God, but I want to try everything. I want to learn everything. Cool, but also maybe not realistic because there's still only one of you. So pick the 1 or 2 things you want to get good at in the next 3 months, and then maybe another one thing you want to get good at in the 3 to 6 months after that, and then so on. Even that way, by the end of the year, you'll still have 2 to 3 massive things you've gotten better at, which is better than where you started. So pick one thing or pick few things that you care about. The waiting game is real. It's real for the rising seniors who are not starting their college admission stuff. It's also real for everyone waiting to start their SAT prep. That is a common issue I come across. You are going to be busy in the second half of your 11th grade year, and even the warm up to 11th grade isn't as smooth, but you get used to that. But then they amp it up in the second semester. So to try and do everything in the second half of 11th grade isn't the best idea. You're just asking to stress yourself out. And then waiting even further to start your college applications process is further worse. So really, if at minimum, if you have a 9th grader right now, one of the ways people wait there is to make your college list. So if you have a 9th grader right now or a 10th grader right now, and you're going on vacation somewhere, If there's a university nearby, go drive through it. If you're visiting family and there's a university in that area, you're visiting a beach and maybe there's a university half an hour away. If time permits, go visit that university. Maybe you take a tour officially, maybe you just walk through it on your own. Maybe you don't even get out of the car and you just drive through the campus. Okay. The whole point is to get your teenager emotionally used to this entire college experience. Because when it hits them in a late 11th and early 12th grade and throughout 12th grade, that their life is going to change, that it's almost like a massive balloon just waiting to explode. Whereas you want to start deflating that balloon before it fully even has time to build up. So starting early lets you deflate that emotional balloon that could potentially happen later. So waiting is one of the mistakes I see. Second is ignoring. No matter who you are, you can start your financial aid research now. There are books at the libraries. FAFSA also has a student, it's a ST, it's something index, student something index. I forgot what the name, but basically you can figure out your financial aid plan or what you would receive, like a fake profile thing that you create. It takes about 10-15 minutes. Put in all your information in there, and then it'll tell you what you could be offered in terms of grants, loans, and work study. So it'll tell you what the federal government would give you. Even if you're in 9th and 10th grade, I recommend putting that in because it helps you plan your finances better for the upcoming few years. Then same idea for the financial aid research. There are books that actually, and even financial advisors who may even tell you how to plan out your money allocation stuff for your taxes so that you can make the most of so that you could get the most rewards out from your FAFSA and from the government. And I'm not qualified to talk about any of this because I don't deal with financial aid stuff, which is why I'm struggling some of it with the terms. But ultimately, it's so you can max out your aid packages from the university and from the government. So there are ways and tweaks you can make along the way in beginning few years so that your tax returns leading up to them are what was it? I don't know. They just show not crazy income or like income that's there, but then what am I saying? Here, I'm thinking this because there was a book I read at the Wilton Library on financial aid, and it basically said, don't get promoted or don't get a bonus and the year before your teen goes to college because that's going to get reported. So like ask them to wait. So it's like tips and tricks like that. But yes, start your research now. And then scholarships are ongoing. I've done a whole presentation on scholarships, and I'll link everything. When I send you this video, I'll also send you the whole archive of previous videos where I've talked about SAT, ACTs, and extracurricular planning and so on. So I'll send you that. But scholarships, you can start applying there's very few scholarships available in 9th and 10th grade. There are, but not as many. But definitely 11th and definitely 12th grade, you can start applying. But before you apply, you have to go look for them. So I would recommend at least making a list or an Excel sheet of the scholarships you could apply to when your time comes, so that when your time comes, you already have either the essays written out and you just have to submit because now you're in 12th grade and you're allowed to, or at the minimum, you have a list so you know that from the thousands and thousands of scholarships available, here are the ones that I qualify for. Okay. You don't want to start your search from scratch while you're also trying to do your college applications and everything. It just adds one more thing. And this is when teenagers just really don't want to do it, right? So if I said, hey, we're doing your essays and all of this, but on top of that, we're going to add on your scholarship stuff, most students don't bother touching it, which is frustrating for the parents. And of course, it sucks for the teen. Because parents are hoping that they would get more aid, find more scholarships, and the teen's like, yeah, I don't have time for any of this. I can't. But if you had a whole list of scholarships that you could apply to, it makes life easier because you're not just blindly searching anymore. Okay, any questions on anything? We're towards the end. Okay. All right, so then in case we have any rising seniors here, you've probably seen the emails, and I want to give you a reminder. I do have a July college intensive, essay intensive coming up, and there's two cohorts. So there's two pods. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and also Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Now, it's $500 and you get a full rebate if the teen attends all 6 calls and actually does the work. Okay, so if that happens, you get a full rebate. And if you don't want the rebate or you'd like to put it towards a package, a one-on-one package to get help with the other parts of the college applications, then I'll credit the 500 towards that package. So either way, it's practically like getting free help with your college essay. So if you are interested, that website is right over here. And I will also link to it. I'm going to link to it in the chat, and I'll also send it to you in the email if you want to learn more about it. Okay. So with that said, today's was a pretty short presentation. In the next couple months, we're going to cover college essays. We're going to cover application itself, navigating the Common App, and more. So stay tuned for our July presentation and our August presentations coming up. They are going to hit some of the sensitive points about college admissions or college applications, physical college applications themselves. So with that said, any questions on anything? Now is the time. Even if it's not topic related, I'm happy to answer. Something in the chat. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Katania. Okay, so if we then, I suppose, all right, so if we don't have any questions, number one, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And that way, if someone does have a question and doesn't want this